Every sunrise whispers the same invitation. Start now. Not tomorrow. Not when life gets easier. Not when you finally feel ready. But now. Before the noise of the world takes over. Before your phone lights up. Before the weight of yesterday catches you again. Pause. Breathe. This is your sacred moment. The moment to lift your eyes, to open your heart, and to say, God, lead me today. Because one prayer at dawn can change the rhythm of your entire day. One act of faith can turn confusion into clarity, fear into peace, and chaos into calm. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to begin. So rise, speak light into your morning, and watch how heaven begins to move on your behalf. The power to transform your day doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It begins the moment you say, yes, I will start now. Every sunrise carries a divine whisper, an invitation from heaven to begin again. The morning is not just a transition between night and day. It is a sacred threshold, a moment when the world is quiet and the soul is most sensitive to God's presence. The first thoughts you entertain and the first words you speak in the morning are like seeds planted in the soil of your day. Begin with fear, and your day will grow anxious fruit. Begin with faith, and your day will yield peace and strength. That is why beginning with God is not simply a spiritual ritual. It is the secret to living a life of direction, confidence, and victory. When you begin your day with prayer, you acknowledge a profound truth. You are not the center of your universe. God is. This realignment of focus sets everything in its rightful order. The human heart was not designed to carry the weight of control. It was designed to surrender to divine guidance. By beginning with God, you release the burden of self-reliance and invite divine wisdom to govern your steps. In that moment, your weakness becomes His strength, your confusion becomes His clarity, and your limits are exchanged for His infinite grace. The morning prayer is not about eloquent words or perfect phrases. It is about posture, the posture of the heart. It is that quiet bow of humility that says, Lord, I cannot do this day without you. It is that inner whisper that confesses, I need your strength more than I need my own understanding. In that posture of dependence, a supernatural exchange takes place. You give God your anxieties, and He gives you His peace. You give Him your plans, and He gives you His purpose. You give Him your emptiness, and He fills you with His Spirit. This is the power of beginning with God. It transforms every ordinary morning into a moment of divine partnership. When we look at the rhythm of creation itself, we see the pattern of divine beginnings. In the beginning, God created. That is how the scriptures open. The first movement of history began with God. Every act of creation flowed from His word. That same creative power is still available to you each morning. When you open your mouth in prayer, you are echoing the voice of creation. Your words, spoken in faith, shape the unseen. You may not see the results immediately, but your prayer has already begun rearranging the atmosphere of your day. Think about it. How often do people start their day rushed, anxious, scrolling through messages or headlines before even taking a breath of gratitude? The first voice they hear is not God's. It's the noise of the world. And so their heart becomes reactive, pulled in every direction, tired before the day even begins. But when you begin with God, your mind becomes centered, your emotions become anchored, and your perspective becomes elevated. The storms may still come, but your foundation is steady because you started on holy ground. Beginning with God also changes how you see yourself. When you pray in the morning, you remind your soul of its true identity, a child of the Most High, not a victim of circumstance. Prayer renews your self-awareness in divine truth. You start the day not chasing approval or fearing rejection, but standing tall in the assurance that you are loved, guided, and equipped for purpose. That awareness changes the way you think, speak, and act. You no longer move through life as a wanderer. You move as someone who has heard divine instruction and walks in purpose. The morning is a time of divine intimacy. The world is quiet, distractions are few, and heaven seems near. It is in those early hours that the heart hears most clearly. In those still moments, the Spirit can whisper ideas, warnings, and encouragements that you may miss in the noise of the day. Many breakthroughs, inventions, and divine strategies have been birthed in the early morning hours of prayer. When you begin with God, you don't just receive emotional comfort, you receive divine insight. You begin to see the path ahead, not from ground level, but from heaven's perspective. There is also a mysterious power in the act of consistency. When you make morning prayer a habit, you are training your spirit to respond to God before reacting to the world. Over time, this daily surrender builds spiritual strength and discernment. You become more sensitive to God's voice, more resistant to discouragement, and more stable in faith. Just as a tree draws unseen nourishment from its roots every morning, your spirit draws life from God in prayer. You may not always feel an immediate emotional surge, but deep within, your spirit is being strengthened, like a seed slowly taking root before breaking through the soil. Beginning your day with God also influences how you interact with others. A person who starts the morning in communion with the Creator carries peace into every room they enter. Their words become softer, their patience deeper, and their compassion more genuine. They don't need to force kindness. It flows naturally from the overflow of prayer. You become a living reflection of the one you met in the morning. The people around you may not know why they feel calmer in your presence, but it is because you brought heaven's fragrance with you. Even practical success is affected by spiritual beginnings. When you pray before you plan, you are not wasting time. You are redeeming it. Divine guidance often saves you from costly mistakes, wasted energy, and unnecessary stress. The ideas that come through prayer are not just human thoughts, they carry divine strategy. Many people work hard but see little progress because they rely solely on effort. Those who begin with God work under divine alignment. Their effort becomes multiplied by grace. What would take years in human strength can happen in moments through divine timing. There will be mornings when you do not feel like praying, when the weight of disappointment or the rush of responsibilities tries to silence your spirit. But that is precisely when prayer matters most. Faith is not measured by emotion, but by persistence. Even a whisper of prayer in weakness carries power because it is rooted in trust. Remember, God does not respond to perfection, He responds to hunger. And every morning you choose to begin with Him, you are declaring, "My hunger for your presence is greater than my need for control." As days turn into weeks and weeks into years, this simple daily decision to begin with God reshapes the entire course of your life. You will find yourself more peaceful in chaos, more confident in uncertainty, and more joyful in simple moments. You will begin to see how God orchestrates events, connects opportunities, and protects you from unseen dangers. Each morning prayer becomes a thread in the divine tapestry of your destiny. In truth, the power of beginning with God is not a mystical secret. It is a daily choice. It is the conscious decision to say, "Before I speak to anyone, I will speak to God. Before I listen to the world, I will listen to heaven. Before I take a single step, I will align my heart with His purpose." That O-Ni decision, repeated every morning, has the power to transform your entire life. Because when you begin with God, you are not just starting another day. You are stepping into divine partnership, walking in unseen favor, and living in the rhythm of heaven. Every morning, before the world begins its noise, before the phone lights up with messages and notifications, before the rush of the day takes control, there is a sacred opportunity to renew your mind and spirit. This renewal is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Just as the body needs rest and nourishment, the mind and spirit need daily cleansing and restoration. Morning prayer is that divine reset, the moment when the fog of yesterday is cleared and the soul is made new again in the presence of God. The human mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it at the beginning of the day determines what will grow throughout the day. If you plant thoughts of fear, worry, or resentment, they will multiply and overshadow your peace. But if you plant thoughts of faith, gratitude, and surrender, your day will flourish with joy and clarity. The renewal of the mind is therefore not just about thinking positively, it is about thinking truthfully. It is aligning your thoughts with divine reality rather than the illusions of fear and failure. When you wake in the morning, your mind is a blank canvas. It has not yet been painted by the colors of circumstances or the opinions of others. Prayer is the act of handing that canvas to God and saying, "Paint what you will." In that quiet communion, the Spirit begins to erase the dark strokes of worry, guilt, and doubt that have accumulated from the day before. The renewal process begins, a spiritual cleansing that restores light to your inner vision. Renewing the mind and spirit each morning allows you to see the world differently. You no longer see problems as walls, you see them as doors waiting to be opened by faith. You no longer view people as obstacles, you see them as opportunities to love. You no longer look at your limitations, you focus on God's sufficiency. This transformation of perception is what gives life its spiritual vitality. You become less reactive and more responsive, less fearful and more faithful, less drained and more alive. The mind is powerful, but without renewal, it becomes cluttered. Think of it as a room that gathers dust every day. If you don't take time to sweep it clean, eventually it becomes suffocating. The thoughts of yesterday, disappointments, arguments, failures remain lodged in the corners of your mind, stealing your peace and focus. Morning prayer acts as a cleansing wind that clears that room. When you open your heart to God, the Spirit begins to move like fresh air through your consciousness, sweeping out the debris of negativity and replacing it with divine clarity. Renewal is not just mental, it is spiritual. The Spirit is the deep core of who you are, the eternal part of your being that connects directly with God. When your spirit is weary, no amount of physical rest can fully restore you. You might sleep 8 hours, but still wake up tired because your spirit is burdened. Morning prayer revives the inner person. It's as if the breath of God once again fills your lungs, reminding you that you are not alone, that you are loved, and that today carries divine purpose. This spiritual renewal brings balance to the emotional storms that life often stirs. Anxiety loses its grip because your spirit is anchored. Fear loses its voice because your faith is louder. The chaos around you no longer dictates the condition within you. When the spirit is renewed, peace is not dependent on circumstance. It becomes your default atmosphere. Renewing the mind also involves a conscious decision to reject the lies that life or the enemy tries to plant. Lies like, "You're not enough. You'll never succeed. Your past defines you." These are spiritual toxins that poison the soul if left unchecked. But in the morning, through prayer and reflection, truth confronts these lies. Truth says, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." Truth says, "You can do all things through divine strength." Truth says, "Your past is forgiven, your present is guided, and your future in the fear." When you meditate on truth, your mental landscape changes. You start the day not in defeat, but in confidence. Not because of your own power, but because of divine assurance. There's also an emotional element to this renewal. Many people carry emotional residue from yesterday into today. Hurt feelings, frustrations, disappointments. When these emotions are not released, they compound over time, creating inner exhaustion. But in morning prayer, you can lay them down. You can say, "Lord, I release what I cannot carry." That surrender is not weakness, it is healing. Every tear that falls in the morning is a seed of renewal. And every sigh of surrender becomes a prayer that heaven hears. Renewal through prayer also sharpens focus. When your mind is cluttered, you lose direction. You might work hard but achieve little because your energy is scattered. Prayer aligns your priorities. It helps you distinguish what is urgent from what is important, what is temporary from what is eternal. It transforms busyness into purpose. You move through the day not as someone reacting to circumstances, but as someone guided by clarity and conviction. Renewing the spirit daily also empowers resilience. Life will always bring challenges, unexpected news, difficult people, sudden changes. But when your inner world is renewed, external chaos cannot overthrow your peace. The storms may rage around you, but they cannot enter you. You stand firm, not because the storm is small, but because your spirit is strong. You've already met with the one who calms the seas before the waves even rose. The key is consistency. Renewal is not a one-time event. It is a daily discipline. Just as the body cannot survive on yesterday's meal, the soul cannot thrive on yesterday's prayer. Every new day brings new challenges and therefore requires new strength. Morning renewal is like spiritual maintenance. It keeps your heart soft, your faith strong, and your mind open to divine direction. Over time, this practice transforms not just your mornings, but your entire life. You become more stable, more compassionate, more courageous. The beauty of this renewal is that it does not require grandeur. You don't need long speeches or perfect words. Sometimes renewal happens in silence. A few moments of gratitude, a whisper of surrender, a simple acknowledgement of God's presence. Even the smallest prayer, spoken sincerely, can ignite a great renewal. It's not the length of prayer that matters, it's the depth of connection. And when your mind and spirit are renewed, the world begins to respond differently to you. Doors open that once seemed shut. Solutions appear where only problems existed. People feel peace in your presence because you carry peace within you. You become a living example of what happens when divine renewal touches a human life. Calm in conflict, hopeful in difficulty, joyful in service. In truth, renewing the mind and spirit every morning is about partnership with God. It's about saying, I can't control everything that happens today, but I can control how I begin. That single choice to pause, pray, and renew changes the trajectory of the entire day. You are no longer reacting to life. You are responding to divine rhythm. You are walking with purpose, guided by peace, and empowered by the presence that renews all things. So, every morning, before you step into the noise, step into stillness. Before you pick up your phone, lift up your heart. Let your first conversation be with the one who gives meaning to all other conversations. Let his presence renew your thoughts, heal your emotions, and strengthen your spirit. Because when the mind is renewed, you think like heaven. When spirit is renewed, you live like heaven. And when both are renewed together, no day is ordinary. Every day becomes holy ground. Every morning, as the first light touches the earth, your words have the power to shape what that day will become. What you speak over your life, your family, your work, and your destiny sets the spiritual atmosphere in motion. Words are not just sounds, they are spiritual seeds. Each one carries the potential to build, to bless, to create, or to destroy. When you speak faith into your day, you are declaring alignment with divine truth. You are choosing to see through heaven's perspective instead of fear's distortion. There is creative power hidden within every word you speak. In the beginning, God created the world not with tools or hands, but with words. Let there be light. And there was light. That same creative power operates in you because you are made in His image. Your words too have creative potential. Every time you open your mouth, you release either light or darkness, blessing or bitterness, faith or fear. That is why the morning, the first hours of your day, is the most crucial time to speak faith. It is your opportunity to set divine order before the world's chaos tries to define your reality. When you wake and the mind is still clear, before worries or distractions begin, that is the moment to declare, Today will be a day of victory. Today, peace will guide me. Today, I will walk in wisdom and strength. You are not pretending that problems don't exist. You are declaring that faith is greater than fear. The words you speak are not mere wishes. They are spiritual laws that begin shaping your inner and outer world. Many people begin their mornings by speaking defeat. I'm so tired. I can't handle this. Nothing ever works out for me. They don't realize that those words create self-fulfilling patterns. Their day bends under the weight of their confessions. But those who choose to speak faith begin to see change. When you declare, I am strong in the Lord, you awaken strength within you. When you say, I am surrounded by divine favor, opportunities begin to align in unseen ways. The mouth becomes the steering wheel of your day. Wherever your words go, your life follows. Faith-filled speech is not about ignoring reality. It is about inviting divine reality into your situation. The circumstances may look impossible, but when you speak faith, you are acknowledging that there is a higher truth than what you see. You may say, I feel weak, but God's strength is in me. That simple declaration shifts your focus from limitation to power. Faith does not deny the mountain. It declares that the mountain will move. Your words are the thermostat of your soul. If you keep speaking cold, negative words, your spiritual temperature drops. But when you speak faith, gratitude, and hope, your heart warms with divine fire. The spirit becomes energized, and your perspective becomes clearer. Speaking faith is not just about changing what happens outside. It transforms who you are inside. There is also something deeply spiritual about saying your declarations aloud. Silent thoughts are powerful, but spoken words activate faith in a different dimension. When you hear your own voice declaring truth, it reinforces conviction. Your mind begins to believe what your mouth repeats. That is why prayer, praise, and confession are spoken, because faith grows through hearing. And when you hear your own faith-filled words, your soul aligns with the promises of God. The discipline of speaking faith into your day trains you to expect good, not fear the worst. It prepares your spirit to recognize blessings and opportunities that others overlook. It strengthens resilience. Even when life feels uncertain, your words anchor you. You can wake up to storms outside, but if your words are filled with faith, peace will remain inside. You can say, even in this storm, I will not sink. Even in this darkness, it will find me. That is not denial. It is divine defiance. It is the language of victory. Your words not only affect you, they affect your environment. A person who consistently speaks faith creates an atmosphere of hope around them. Their home feels lighter. Their workplace becomes more peaceful. Their relationships grow stronger. People are drawn to those who speak life. The energy of faith is contagious. Just one word of encouragement spoken in the morning can alter the course of someone else's day. Your faith-filled words can become the very tool God uses to uplift another soul. Morning prayer is the perfect time to speak faith because the day ahead is still unformed. Think of it as writing the script before the play begins. You can either let circumstances write the story, or you can speak divine truth into existence. When you wake up and declare, this will be a day of grace and purpose, heaven hears you. The angels move in alignment with your faith. The unseen realm responds to the authority of your words. The same spiritual principle that governs creation still governs your daily life. Faith-filled words create faith-filled realities. But speaking faith also requires consistency. It's easy to declare blessings when life feels good, but true spiritual maturity is when you speak faith even in the face of uncertainty. That's when your words carry the greatest power, when they are born out of trust rather than comfort. When your heart trembles, but your mouth still declares, I believe, heaven takes notice. That is the language of warriors, the speech of those who walk by faith and not by sight. You must also learn to silence words that contradict your faith. The mouth cannot bless and curse at the same time. Guard your speech as you would guard your soul. If your words constantly express fear, envy, or defeat, they cancel out your prayers. Choose silence over negativity. When you feel discouraged, pause before speaking, take a deep breath, and remember that faith is not a feeling, it's a choice. Speak from that place of trust. Even a quiet whisper of belief can shift the atmosphere. Speaking faith is not limited to affirmations, it's a dialogue with heaven. It is the act of agreeing with what God already says about you. When you declare, I am loved, I am guided, I am chosen, you are not inventing these truths. You are aligning yourself with eternal reality. Faith-filled words are echoes of divine promises. You are reminding both yourself and the universe of who you are and whose you are. As you practice speaking faith daily, you begin to notice change, not always immediately in your circumstances, but certainly within your heart. You feel more grounded, more peaceful, more courageous. The challenges that once overwhelmed you begin to shrink under the power of your declarations. You no longer wake up to dread the day, you wake up to shape it. You no longer let the world define your destiny, you speak destiny into the world. In the end, speaking faith into your day is not about controlling life. It's about cooperating with divine flow. It's about giving voice to what heaven desires to manifest through you. When you fill your mornings with faith-filled words, you are opening the gates of blessing, wisdom, and favor. Your words become bridges that connect today's reality with tomorrow's miracle. So each morning, when the sun rises, rise with it. Not in silence, but in declaration. Speak peace over your home. Speak strength over your soul. Speak blessing over your work. Speak light into darkness. Because what you speak in faith today becomes what you live tomorrow. And when you speak with faith, heaven listens, and the day obeys. Gratitude is not merely an emotion, it is a force, a living current that fuels the spirit and drives the soul forward through the seasons of life. It is the spiritual engine that powers faith, sustains hope, and ignites joy. Every sunrise offers you two choices: to complain about what is missing, or to give thanks for what remains. The choice you make determines the rhythm of your heart and the quality of your day. When you start your morning with gratitude, you are not just being polite to heaven, you are aligning your life with the highest frequency of divine abundance. Gratitude has a mysterious power. It changes how you see, how you think, and how you live. It transforms ordinary moments into holy encounters and simple blessings into sacred miracles. When your heart is grateful, even the smallest things, a breath, a sunrise, a cup of water, become proof that you are cared for by an unseen hand. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's already working. It opens your eyes to the countless mercies you might otherwise overlook. Every heartbeat becomes a reminder that you are still here, still chosen, still part of God's unfolding story. Most people underestimate the spiritual depth of gratitude. They think of it as an act of courtesy, something to express when life goes well. But true gratitude is not situational. It is spiritual. It is not dependent on comfort, but born from awareness. It is a decision to say, even here, even now, I am thankful. Gratitude is not about ignoring pain. It is about recognizing grace in the midst of it. When you give thanks in difficult times, you are declaring that divine goodness is still greater than your sorrow, and that faith still holds the pen when life tries to rewrite your story. In the quiet of the morning, gratitude functions like light breaking through darkness. It illuminates what fear hides. It softens the heart and clears the mind. When you begin your day with thankfulness, you clear the fog of negativity before it has a chance to settle. You awaken your spirit to divine presence and invite heaven to accompany you through the hours ahead. Gratitude is not just a mental exercise. It is a spiritual ignition, a spark that sets the soul ablaze with awareness of divine love. Gratitude also changes the chemistry of your inner world. Modern science may explain it in terms of hormones and neural patterns, but the spiritual truth runs deeper. Gratitude heals the unseen. It repairs the fractures of worry, melts the ice of bitterness, and restores warmth to the heart. It makes room for joy to dwell. When you thank God for what you already have, you declare that your soul is full, and fullness always attracts more. An ungrateful heart repels blessing because it focuses only on emptiness. But a grateful heart becomes a magnet for miracles, because divine abundance always flows toward appreciation. There is a sacred rhythm to gratitude. It humbles and elevates you at the same time. It teaches you that everything you have is a gift, yet it also reminds you that you are worthy of receiving it. Gratitude brings balance to ambition. It turns striving into stewardship. When you are thankful, you no longer chase blessings, you cultivate them. You no longer measure your worth by comparison, you rest in divine sufficiency. Gratitude gives peace to progress. It lets you move forward without losing your soul. In the morning, when you open your eyes and whisper, "Thank you," something shifts in the invisible realm. The words may be small, but the vibration is powerful. Those two words release energy, an acknowledgement that opens divine channels. Gratitude is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. When you say thank you, heaven responds by saying, there is more. Because the grateful heart is never empty-handed. It is always in conversation with the source. One of the greatest secrets of spiritual growth is this: you can never move to the next level of blessing until you are truly grateful for the level you're on. Gratitude is the key that unlocks promotion. When you appreciate what you already have, you prove that you are ready to handle more. But when you complain about what's missing, you close the door on potential. Gratitude says, I may not have everything I want, but I already have more than I deserve. And in that humility, abundance finds its way. There's also healing in gratitude. It releases you from the prison of self-pity and the heaviness of regret. It reminds you that your story is still being written, that every disappointment carries a hidden blessing, and that nothing is wasted in divine hands. When you start thanking instead of questioning, peace begins to flow, wounds begin to close, the heart learns to trust again. Gratitude is the bridge between pain and peace, between what was lost and what is yet to be gained. Gratitude also deepens your connection with others. A grateful person radiates warmth. They are easier to love because they live in appreciation, not entitlement. They don't drain energy from people, they give it. Their words lift others because they've learned to see the beauty in everything. A grateful person doesn't wait for perfect moments to be joyful. They create joy through recognition. They carry light wherever they go because gratitude has taught them to find light even in the shadows. Morning gratitude sets the tone for the entire day. When your first thoughts are thankful, negativity loses its power. Gratitude grounds you before the day can shake you. It reminds you that you are not moving through random chaos. You are walking through divine orchestration. Each moment, each encounter, each challenge is part of something meaningful. Gratitude turns the day into a conversation with grace. Every blessing becomes a message, every problem a teacher, every moment an opportunity to give thanks again. There is also a deep mystery in gratitude. It invites the future while celebrating the present. When you thank God not only for what is, but also for what will be, you are exercising prophetic faith. You are saying, I don't see it yet, but I believe it's already on its way. This kind of gratitude is creative. It calls things that are not yet visible into existence. It builds bridges between promise and manifestation. Gratitude, therefore, is not passive. It is active faith in motion. A grateful heart lives with open hands. It holds blessings loosely, knowing that everything given is meant to flow through. not just to. Gratitude transforms possession into purpose. It turns having into giving. It teaches that abundance is not measured by accumulation, but by appreciation and generosity. The more thankful you become, the more generous you are. Because gratitude reveals that giving is the purest form of thanks. In the end, gratitude as a spiritual engine is what keeps the soul alive and moving forward, even in seasons of darkness. It turns delays into preparation, trials into testimonies, and endings into new beginnings. Gratitude whispers to the weary heart, you still have breath, and where there is breath, there is purpose. It keeps your spirit fueled when strength runs low. Because gratitude does not rely on circumstance. It runs on revelation. It knows that life itself is a gift. So when the sun rises and your eyes open to another day, pause before rushing. It is not about getting instructions for survival. It's about entering into partnership with divine wisdom. It is the recognition that no matter how capable or intelligent we are, our human understanding is limited. But when we begin the day by seeking divine direction, we align our steps with infinite wisdom that never fails. Life is filled with choices, some small, others monumental. Every decision, every word, every path leads somewhere. Without guidance, even the most gifted person can drift off course. But when you seek guidance every morning through prayer, you position your heart to be led, not just driven. You stop reacting to life and start responding to purpose. The one who seeks daily guidance no longer walks blindly. They move with clarity and calm assurance. Even when the road ahead is uncertain, seeking daily guidance is more than asking God to bless your plans. It's about allowing Him to form them. Many people pray only after deciding what they want, asking God to endorse their choices. But true guidance begins when you place your agenda aside and invite divine wisdom to write it anew. It's the willingness to say, not my will, but yours be done. That posture of surrender turns ordinary days into extraordinary journeys. When you seek divine direction sincerely, you begin to experience a pattern. Unexpected doors open, peace confirms your choices, and what once seemed confusing becomes clear. Guidance is not always revealed in lightning bolts or booming voices. Most often it comes as a quiet impression, a subtle nudge in your spirit, a deep knowing that points you forward or holds you back. The key is to listen. In prayer, we often do all the talking, but guidance comes in the listening. When you still your heart and silence your mind, divine wisdom begins to whisper. It might speak through a thought, a scripture, a conversation, or even an interruption. Those who cultivate stillness become fluent in heaven's language. They learn to recognize the tone of peace that accompanies divine instruction. Morning is the best time to seek this guidance because the mind is unburdened, the heart is fresh, and the world's noise has not yet invaded. In those sacred early hours, the spirit is more sensitive. The day is still unwritten, and in that blank space, divine direction can shape the script. When you begin your morning asking for guidance, you are essentially handing God the pen and saying, write my story today. And when God writes your story, even detours become destiny. Guidance is also an act of humility. It acknowledges that you don't have all the answers. It's admitting that human wisdom can fail, but divine wisdom cannot. The proud heart says, I know what I'm doing. The humble heart says, lead me because I cannot see what you see. And in that humility, strength is born. Guidance is not weakness, it is wisdom. Those who seek direction are not lost. They are led. Sometimes divine guidance doesn't make sense at first. You may feel called to pause when you want to rush, to forgive when you want to fight, to give when you want to hold back. But later, you see the perfection in every instruction. God's wisdom is like a map that shows what lies beyond the next turn. You may not understand it now, but obedience will always lead you where peace resides. When you learn to trust divine direction more than your own logic, You experience a supernatural calm, the peace that comes from knowing you are being led by the one who knows the end from the beginning. Guidance also protects. Many of life's regrets could have been avoided if guidance had been sought first. A simple pause to ask, is this the right step? Can save years of pain. The Spirit's direction is like a compass that keeps you from wandering into danger. Sometimes guidance will tell you to wait when your emotions tell you to hurry. Other times it will push you to move when fear tempts you to delay. Either way, divine direction always leads toward growth, never destruction. What feels like a setback often becomes a setup when you follow the gentle pull of guidance. Seeking daily guidance does not mean you'll always hear a clear voice or see a flashing sign. It means you learn to walk in faith, trusting that every step, even the uncertain ones, are part of a greater design. It's less about knowing every detail and more about staying connected to the one who does. You may not have the full map, but if you have the guide, you'll never be lost. Guidance is not a one-time event. It's a continual conversation. Every day, every decision, every moment is an opportunity to say, show me the way. The beauty of divine guidance is that it personalizes your journey. What works for one person may not work for another because your path is unique. Guidance ensures that you don't live someone else's story. It keeps you aligned with your individual purpose and pace. When you walk by divine direction, comparison fades because you realize your timeline is sacredly designed. You begin to appreciate your journey, even its slower seasons, because you trust that every step, even the pauses, are intentional. Morning guidance also brings confidence. When you know that your day has been handed to divine care, you no longer fear mistakes or missed opportunities. Even if plans change or obstacles arise, you remain calm, knowing you are still on track. Guidance gives you spiritual stability. While others crumble under uncertainty, you stand firm, anchored in trust. You can say, I may not know what today holds, but I know who holds my day. That assurance brings a peace no circumstance can take away. Another powerful truth about guidance is that it grows stronger with use. The more often you seek it, the clearer it becomes. Just as a musician sharpens their ear through practice, your spiritual sensitivity increases through daily dependence. Over time, you begin to recognize divine timing, discern between emotion and intuition, and sense when to act or wait. Guidance becomes less about asking for direction and more about walking in harmony with divine rhythm. When you seek daily guidance, your life becomes beautifully synchronized with grace. You find yourself in the right places at the right times, meeting the right people, saying the right words. It's not coincidence, it's divine choreography. What others call luck is often the fruit of prayerful guidance. You begin to live not by chance, but by choice. Guided choice, sacredly aligned with purpose. At its core, seeking daily guidance is about relationship. It's not a transaction where you ask for advice and leave. It's a conversation that continues all day. It begins in morning prayer, but flows through every interaction and decision. The more you stay aware of divine presence, the more guidance flows naturally. You begin to live in tune with something greater than yourself. A steady, gentle hand that leads you through both still waters and stormy seas. So, when the morning comes and the world begins to stir, pause before stepping out. Take a breath, close your eyes and ask, guide me today. Then listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Guidance may not come as a thunderclap. It may come as peace in your spirit, a subtle direction, or a quiet conviction. And as you move through the day, carry that awareness with you, that you are not walking alone, because those who seek daily guidance never walk in darkness. They walk in light, step by step, moment by moment, led by the hand of divine wisdom. And every day becomes a journey of purpose, peace, and perfect timing. In the realm of the Spirit, it is not the great leaps, but the small, faithful steps taken daily that shape destiny. Just as a river carves valleys through steady flow, a soul grows strong not through occasional bursts of devotion, but through unwavering, consistent communion with the divine. The most powerful transformation in a person's spiritual life doesn't come from dramatic moments of emotion or rare encounters of inspiration. It comes from showing up every morning, even when you don't feel like it, and offering your heart in quiet faith. There is something sacred about the discipline of constancy. The human spirit thrives on rhythm, a pattern of connection that aligns the heart, mind, and soul with divine presence. When you pray daily, not out of obligation but out of love, you create a spiritual current that keeps your life moving forward. Each moment of prayer, each word whispered in faith, builds upon the last. Over time, what was once a gentle habit becomes a living force that propels you closer to your purpose. Spiritual growth is never accidental. It is the fruit of consistent practice, the result of daily surrender. You cannot expect strength without exercise or wisdom without reflection. In the same way, you cannot expect divine power to flow through your life without the discipline of daily communion. Consistency is the bridge between inspiration and transformation. Many people begin with passion but fade with time because they confuse enthusiasm with endurance. Passion may ignite your journey, but only consistency keeps the flame alive. Think of how nature mirrors this truth. The sun rises every morning without fail, the tides move with unbroken rhythm, and the seasons arrive in divine sequence. Creation itself is governed by consistency, the faithfulness of cycles and order. If the universe runs on such steadfast rhythm, how much more should we cultivate spiritual rhythm within ourselves? A prayerful life that flows like sunrise, not rushed, not random, but faithful and sure, becomes a life filled with light and balance. Each morning, when you choose to pray, read, meditate, or simply sit in gratitude, you are training your soul to align with divine timing. You are building inner strength layer by layer. The power of this practice is often invisible at first, like a seed beneath the soil. You may not see immediate results, but something is growing. Deep roots of faith that will one day sustain you in storm and drought. Those who are consistent in seeking divine presence do not panic when challenges come. They have been preparing all along. Their spirit is already trained to stand firm. Momentum is a beautiful spiritual mystery. Once you begin to move faithfully in the same direction, divine energy joins your effort. What once required discipline soon becomes delight. You no longer have to force yourself to pray or find time for reflection. It becomes your natural rhythm. That is spiritual momentum, the point where your devotion begins to carry you instead of you carrying it. Prayer no longer feels like effort, it becomes oxygen. You wake with gratitude not because you must, but because you can't imagine beginning your day any other way. Consistency also refines the heart. Every repeated act of devotion purifies the motives behind it. At first, you might pray out of need, habit, or fear, but over time, the practice itself reshapes you. You begin to seek not only answers, but relationship, not only blessings, but presence. Each consistent act of prayer removes another layer of self-centeredness and draws you closer to divine nature. Faith deepens, patience expands, and love matures. The miracle is not in what happens around you, but in what happens within you. There will be mornings when your heart feels dry, when you sense nothing, when distractions pull your mind in 1,000 directions. But it is in those very moments that consistency proves its worth. True devotion is not built on feeling, it is built on faith. The person who continues to seek even in silence, to pray even in weariness, will one day find that what felt like discipline has become joy. The clouds may cover the sky, but the sun still rises. Likewise, even when you cannot feel the divine, consistency ensures you do not lose connection to it. In spiritual life, interruptions are inevitable. Schedules shift, trials come, energy fades. Yet, when you have built a foundation of consistent practice, you can always return quickly to peace. Your spirit remembers the path. Like a well-worn trail through the forest, consistency creates a familiar route back to stillness. Even a brief moment of morning reflection can reignite what long absence may have dimmed. That is the beauty of consistent devotion. It gives you stability in a world of change. Some may think consistency sounds rigid, but in truth, it brings freedom. A consistent spiritual rhythm releases you from the tyranny of uncertainty. You no longer wonder when you will pray or if you will reflect. You simply do. Your heart is anchored in habit, and that habit frees you to experience depth. Within that daily space, creativity flows, peace settles, and clarity emerges. Consistency doesn't trap you, it liberates you from the chaos of inconsistency. Momentum, once built, multiplies. The energy from one day of faithful devotion carries into the next, building spiritual endurance. You begin to notice that your reactions to life change. You become calmer, more discerning, more hopeful. Even when faced with difficulty, your inner balance remains. It is not that problems disappear, but that you meet them from a place of strength rather than fear. That is what spiritual momentum does. It sustains you when motivation fades. It keeps your spiritual fire burning when emotions grow cold. Consistency also teaches you intimacy with time. You start to value mornings differently. Each sunrise becomes sacred. Not just another day, but another opportunity to align your steps with divine rhythm. When you dedicate the first moments of your day to the one who gave you breath, the rest of the day seems to unfold with grace. The tasks may remain the same, but the atmosphere changes. Peace follows you because you began with peace. A consistent spiritual life is not about perfection, it is about persistence. Even if you stumble or miss a day, begin again. The beauty of grace is that every sunrise offers a new chance. Momentum doesn't die when you falter. It resumes the moment you rise. What matters most is not how many times you fall, but how faithfully you return. Each return builds resilience, humility, and renewed passion. In the end, the person who commits to daily connection becomes like a tree planted by rivers of water, steady, fruitful, and unshaken by storm. Their roots run deep, their branches reach wide, and their presence offers shade to others. That strength did not come overnight. It was built day by day, prayer by prayer, dawn by dawn. The truth is simple yet profound. Greatness in the spirit is never sudden. It is the cumulative result of thousands of small moments of faithfulness. Every morning you choose to pray, to reflect, to seek, you are adding another layer of strength to your soul. You are building a life anchored not in impulse, but in purpose. So rise each morning with quiet confidence. Do not seek perfection. Seek persistence. Let your devotion flow like the rhythm of the sunrise, gentle, faithful, and unwavering. Because in that steady rhythm, the power of the divine flows freely. Over time, that flow will carry you further than your own strength ever could. And one day, you'll look back and realize, it wasn't a single prayer that changed your life. It was the faithful practice of seeking every morning that transformed everything. As each new morning dawns, it brings with it a sacred invitation. To begin again, to rise with renewed faith, and to walk hand in hand with divine purpose. Morning prayer is not merely a ritual, it is a daily awakening of the soul. It reminds us that no matter what happened yesterday, today is a new page written by grace. When we begin our day with prayer, we do more than ask for strength. We receive vision, peace, and direction. Every word spoken in faith plants a seed in the soil of your destiny, ever. Moment of quiet communion strengthens your spirit. Every act of gratitude lifts your heart above fear and doubt. And when you seek divine guidance daily, when you build your consistency with love and devotion, something remarkable begins to happen. Life aligns. The noise fades, the confusion clears, and your path becomes illuminated step by step. This is the true power of a morning prayer. It transforms ordinary moments into holy ground. It makes every sunrise a symbol of hope. It shifts your focus from the storm to the stillness within. And as you practice it each day, you create momentum, a sacred rhythm that carries you through joy, through challenge, through every season of life. So, as you rise tomorrow, take a breath and remember, you are not waking up to a world of chaos. You are waking up with the presence of peace. Begin your day not with worry, but with worship, not with haste, but with humility. Let your first words each morning not be complaints or questions, but a quiet whisper of gratitude. Thank you for this new day. When you make morning prayer the foundation of your life, every day becomes a fresh opportunity to walk in wisdom, love, and divine purpose. The world may change around you, but your spirit will remain steady, anchored in light. As you go forward from this moment, may your mornings be filled with peace, your days with purpose, and your nights with rest. May every prayer you speak in faith return to you multiplied in grace. Remember, you don't need perfect words. You only need a sincere heart. Good luck on your journey ahead. May every sunrise remind you that you are guided, loved, and never alone. Keep walking with faith, and you will see doors open, burdens lift, and dreams take form in ways beyond your imagination. Thank you for listening. May this message not only touch your mind, but also awaken your spirit. May you rise tomorrow morning renewed in strength, anchored in faith, and filled with light. Thank you. And may your every morning begin with peace, purpose, and prayer.